My girlfriend and I are both 30 years old and have been together for over a year with a brand new baby that was born 2 months ago. I have 3 children of my own with an ex-wife that we all have been a happy blended family: my girlfriend, me, my 3 kids, and the new baby. Beginning of the signs, girlfriend's mother has always been very controlling of her life and knows ways to manipulate her with words, texts, phone calls, and mind games. When she got pregnant, her mom was always overbearing about how we should be raising the baby, which name to pick, always trying to get my girlfriend to stay at their house. My girlfriend has her own apartment that she pays for but is constantly pressured to stay with her parents, and still treats her as if she is a teenager. Examples of this are that we both vape nicotine, and her mom threw a freak out over this and blew up her phone about how she has ruined her life now and the baby's. Fast forward to the baby being born. It was supposed to be a special moment. My mom, and I were in the delivery room with me by my girlfriend's side. When the baby was born, we asked for time to bond with the baby. Instead, her mom refused the requests and stayed at the hospital for the entirety of the time, giving neither my girlfriend or I time to be alone with the baby together. My girlfriend is very introverted and shy and is scared to ever stand up to her mom. We've always argued over me telling her to grow a backbone and set boundaries with her mom, as this is our child and this is our lives. That the only 2 people that know what's best for the baby is her and I, not her mom. Nail in the coffin. When it was time to leave the hospital, we went home with the new baby and come to find out, her mom is planning to stay for weeks at my girlfriend's apartment with us. I had FMLA leave to spend this time with her and the baby. The first night home, her mom came into the room we were in at 5 a.m. and told us to turn off the TV. At this point, I couldn't hold back anymore. Long story short, I went off on her mom and told her to fudge off and leave us be, and that she was an overbearing female dog. I know this isn't the correct approach, but I just couldn't take it anymore. Her mom then told me that my kids were losers and that I am a loser and that her daughter doesn't need me in her life. My girlfriend didn't say anything, she was just in shock. Didn't stand up to her mom at all. Her mom told me to leave and it was a huge argument. She called her husband, girlfriend's dad, to come over and threaten me. I ended up leaving. Month of withholding child. Girlfriend then said we can't be together anymore because I insulted her family and disrespected them. She went dark on me and I wasn't able to see my newborn son now for a month. I couldn't believe it. We were super close and she was nothing like her mother, but her parents are so good at brainwashing her that she believed every word they said. Finally, she began sneaking over to my house when I had my kids for the week, or sneaking me over to her apartment when I didn't have my kids for the week. Her apartment is too small for my kids. Her mother would drive by to see if my car was ever there and vice versa to see if her car was ever at my place. She finally found out, and I told my GF that she needed to set boundaries and that this was overbearing and controlling, reminding her that she is a 30-year-old adult and should be able to live her life as she should. Current situation / present time. She told her parents that she sees me but that we aren't together. Although we sleep in the same bed, are romantic, and still sleep with each other. Since she told her parents that, she began letting me see my son less and less. 2 nights a week if I'm lucky. My kids are always asking where she and the baby are because they love them to death and haven't gotten to see their new brother that often like we planned. Each time she goes to see her parents, they instill new brainwashing techniques on her because one night we'll be together having a great time taking care of the baby and bonding. Then after she sees her parents, she seems to have a firewall put up where she says, "We can't stay the night with each other, we should leave at 11 p.m. now." She admitted this is all things that her mother is making her do and that basically she must abide by what they say. They have nothing being held over her other than watching the baby while we both work. I have told her a million different ways how this is super controlling of her mother, and that if she loves me then she should stop letting her mom control her like this. This always turns into a fight because she doesn't know how to confront her mom. I have tried telling her that she holds more power than she thinks she does. For example, she could bluff and tell her parents to stop controlling her, and how she lives by saying they will no longer be allowed to see the baby anymore. She always seems to enjoy being with me, cuddling, talking about how she loves me and how I destroyed everything because now her family doesn't like me and that we have to say that we aren't together anymore, that I almost feel she believes this and that we are just co-parenting. I am at a loss of what to do. I can't make her see reason that she is being controlled and manipulated with these evil sick texts and calls from her mom. It feels like she is brainwashed and doesn't want to cut ties with her mom or her family, or set boundaries and is going with whatever they say. I've tried to detach myself from her, saying I can't be with someone who is under this control, but if there was some way to make her realize that her mom is fucked up, then maybe we could finally raise this baby together instead of her mom believing that this is her mom's baby and not ours. Any suggestions? If it comes from me, it comes off as disrespecting her family, and she punishes me and my kids by keeping them away. When it comes from her mom, it's like gospel. I could take her to court, but her parents are rich and I don't have money for a lawyer. My child is being withheld and her mind is constantly changing on if she's supposed to follow her heart and be with me, letting me have time as the father of our baby, or if she's supposed to just stay away from me and raise the baby with her parents in her sheltered life with no friends. What do I do? Story 2. My parents undermine me all the time and want me to move to their tiny village to take care of my mom instead of moving to the city where they would have better services and greater help from me. My parents are both in their 80s. They have always been very present in my life, especially my mom with her overbearing anxiety. My dad is surprisingly mostly healthy, but my mom is not well. She has a respiratory disease and a lung cancer which is kept mostly under control, but she's getting worse and worse because of other issues too. So the main problem is that they chose to live in the countryside some 30 plus years ago. I've hated the place since day one, and since that day I've told them that I won't be living there, ever. It's too far away from the city, the people are awful, and the place it's very backward. I've got my own place in the city and I don't drive, so they know it's even more complicated to go visit them. Despite living some 40 miles apart, I take care of everything I can from here, mostly but not only, her medical appointments, and I go with her every time. I'm absolutely fine with it. It's my mom, of course I'm doing it, and I don't even feel like I need a thank you. I've been telling them to move to the city for years, but they won't budge, even though they know that they would have better services, both medical and social, here in the city, but most of all they would have me closer by and ready to help whenever I can. With my mom's health decaying, my dad is understandably frustrated and he threatens to live every other day. I keep saying that I'll deal with that when he actually leaves. We had an in-home caregiver who we had to fire, and my mom, who thinks is totally fine cause she's mostly clear-headed, has hired a lady to come and keep her company for only 2 hours in the morning, starting from 10 a.m., and 2 hours in the afternoon, approximate 4 to 6 p.m. She basically does nothing but sit on the couch next to her, and my dad is incapable of taking control of her hiring process / working schedule / tasks. My mom has been in and out from hospitals and rehabilitation clinics, cause she also has broken vertebrae, she has bed sores and a diaper, but she doesn't follow any of the advices given to her by anyone, either from the doctors nor from us. She needs an in-house carer, but they are hard to find since no one wants to go live in the country, even if it's a tiny village well connected to the closest towns. My dad is full to the rim. He says he wants to live a relaxed life, not this mess, and I understand him completely, but you know the in sickness and in health thing. So, what's his solution? That I go there and help take care of her. I've tried, I've tried. After 1 week in a particularly tough situation, it's not always like that thankfully, but still, I'm not joking about it. I was feeling they big sad, because she was so demanding that I couldn't even sleep cause she would call me in the middle of the night to fix her pillows, just one of the tiniest things I had to do, and I slept with one eye open just in case she needed me. Of course my dad slept like a baby every night. She was so dizzy in those days that she doesn't even remember them, but I do, unfortunately. Taking care of someone that way is not something that I know how or have the mental and physical energy to do. And I have my life. I might not have a family, but I have a job and friends, but it doesn't matter to them. I should leave everything cause they are not important, and every job I have is always looked at condescendingly cause they think it won't last. I feel it is important to say that I was diagnosed with ADHD 18 months ago at 40 years old. I'm now medicated, I function better, I'm working on myself, I'm working and studying for a new career that I'd be very good at, with the help of a neuropsychologist / coach, but of course they don't acknowledge either my neurodivergence, the difficulties that it entails, nor the efforts that I'm making to be completely independent, despite me trying to make them understand. What they don't understand is that the easiest and most convenient thing for everyone would be to come and live in the city, which they could afford even without selling the house. But they just refuse to do it cause my dad doesn't like to live in the city. We can't even have a discussion, it's just a no. I've told them that I'll do everything I can from here, but I won't budge and go there. This is the hill I'm willing to die on. Cause if I go, and put everything else on hold, my mental health balance will decline vertiginously. At this point, my ADHD sets on my executive dysfunction paralysis, and I'm not even able to call them, and I feel anxious when they call, 'cause I know they will just keep throwing everything my way, with my dad making everything even more complicated than it actually is and making me feel bad about it. Am I a bad daughter? Story 3. My grandma doesn't stop fighting with my dad. To start off, I'm a 14-year-old male, and there's no specific date for this story as it's a thing that's been going along for my entire life. To give a bit of context for this, the grandma I'm talking about is the one from my mother's side of the family, as the one from my father's had also died in 2017. I never really knew my grandparents from my father's side of the family, but since my dad is a very open person, he shared a lot of his own childhood with me. And while his parents weren't abusive or neglectful, they were far from being parents of the year, leading to my dad studying in Texas rather than Germany, which is where they lived and also where my parents live today. My mother's parents were far better parents overall, which I personally think being at least a bit from the fact that my mother's parents were born after WW2 while my father's parents were in their 20s while it happened. One little notion that my grandma and my dad don't get along that well was that while I was younger, whenever I'd visit my grandparents, it would always be my mother coming along with me and my dad would never join us. The main thing that I'll be talking about though happened only last month. My grandparents would be in town a few weeks due to my uncle and aunt who lived next to our house going on a 4-week honeymoon trip to London and needed someone to take care of their 8-month-old daughter. They decided to visit us for a dinner while they were there and all was well. But while we were eating and everyone finished their main course, my mother went into the kitchen to prepare the dessert. My grandpa, who is a former football player, it was the team of a very small town, so I won't bother mentioning it. He started talking to my dad about his own work life, and while they had very different careers as my dad is a consultant, they always got along very well and had very similar backgrounds/childhoods. They spoke for a while and then my grandma randomly blurted out her famous, "Well, by the way, she does this every time my dad was having a conversation." Before I tell you, a bit of context will be needed. My dad and grandfather were mostly talking about what their fathers told them about how it was during WW2. While I am a child, I have no real issues with them doing this as I also have a personal interest in war history and my parents and grandpa actually support this interest. However, my grandmother is one of those, "Oh, no child should even know what a gun is," and "Oh, every life is precious and things meant for killing are hell spawn." In summary, she's very naive who would even treat a 17-year-old like a 5-year-old because they were still 1 year away from adulthood. What she ended up saying though was as following. "Well, my dad's name, I understand you two talk about this, but still why would you start a conversation like this with your son here?" Before my dad responded, I just decided to say my view, which was that I don't mind them talking about this and actually find it quite interesting. Which she followed up with, "Oh my dear, trust me, you don't want to hear about this terrible stuff." I don't know why, but for some reason after my dad just reassured my grandma that I had interest in this stuff, and it was also my current history subject in school, my grandma just snapped. She started yelling at my dad about how him even letting me know about these things made him a terrible father, and how he didn't deserve parenthood. She went on for about 30 seconds before my grandpa said, "My grandma's name, just stop. Only because my name knows about this and has interest in it, and you think that's awful because you were raised differently, it doesn't make my son-in-law a bad father." She started seeming confused and uncomfortable before deciding to leave, but it doesn't end here. When she got up, she tried to take me with her and took my arm and just said, "Let's go." I aggressively pulled back my arm and sat back down. When she looked at me confused, my grandpa just gave her one of those go-to-your-room looks that only men in who've been trough parenthood seem to be able to do, and she then finally left. My mom came back shortly after with the dessert, and when she asked where my grandma was, my grandpa just told her the story, and with my mother being the daughter, she completely understood and believed it. Over dessert, my mother spoke with my dad about how while we would still be coming to my grandparents' golden wedding celebration, which is the name for a couple's 50th wedding day, we would be taking up on the offer that my mom's older sister, or in other words my second aunt, had made us, that the three of us could stay with her family rather than with them. My grandpa completely understood and left about an hour later. That was the end of that, and I'm just happy my grandpa is not the kind of husband to just stand by instead of putting his wife in her place. It did come with one upside though, as I really like the aunt and uncle we'd be staying with for the golden wedding party, as we'd be there for 2 weeks before the actual party. They also have 2 kids, a 20-year-old daughter and 17-year-old son, whom I get along with very well. They also have 2 dogs who are just the cutest. But back to the point, I'll update this post in case any more outrageous things happen during the time when they're, but for now there's not much else to say. Just wanted to put this out there, and feel free to share any of your opinions on this.